By the rivers of Babylon, yeah, we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying.
Shalom, shalom, family, and welcome to another Tanakh review. My name is Zurishaddai, one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH, CHOKMAH, located in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York. Giving glory to the Most High, King of the universe, creator of all things and everything. We thank the creator of heaven and earth for life, food, clothing, and shelter, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And I pray that the creator of heaven and earth will continue to be with us, guide and protect us. I hope that everyone is having a good, had a good week, and I pray that the Most High God will continue to bless each and every one of us. Wishing everyone Shabbat Shalom, and I pray that that Most High God be with all those people in the earth who are suffering, who might be going through pain, heartache, that he be with Yisrael and be with all those who lost lives in the land of Israel, praying that the Most High God be with our brothers and sisters in Israel, and that the Most High God will protect, keep them, and guide them. So I pray that the Creator continue to bless us all, and that he would even show us mercy, even in this time when the world is in so much conflict, and and we see the things that are happening around us. So praying that the Most High God will continue to be with us, and I pray that the Most High God will continue to cause us to advance, to be able to grow. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to one of my teachers, even one of my mentors, and he will be going over the Sidra from the last couple of weeks, I believe. So without any further ado, I'll pass the mic over to Nasik Zurishaddai ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Great, Baruch Hashem. First of all, I did give praise to the supreme intelligence of the universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, and due respect to the platform I'm on, the D.C.B channel platform, spiritual leader, Chief Prince Yariel ben Yisrael, the host Chief Uzael, to the princes, Chief, the rabbinate, Kohanim, Maureen, brothers and sisters, and visitors to the channel. I greet you all in the tongue of my forefathers, Shalom Aleichem, and early Shabbat Shalom. I'd like to say, first of all, Adonai Sabtadi Takopi Yagi Tilateaka, O Lord, to my lips, my mouth should declare that praise. I'll be talking about a sidra that we don't never really say on Shabbat, as far as a reading, a regular reading on the Shabbat. Okay, all right. So just as I was saying, I'll be covering a particular sidra that's really not covered on Shabbat. They read about it, which is Rizot HaBaraka. Most people say Bazot HaBaraka, which means this is the blessing. And it's just one of them situations when we come to the end of the year that it just never is actually read on a Shabbat, but it's read during the week, you know, and a little after the Shabbat that ends the year before we go into the new beginning of a book of Bereshit, Genesis. So what's interesting is that since we're coming to this point in time of the year is during the time of Sukkot. And so the last sidra that actually, like I spoke last time, was Hazienu, that you actually read on the Shabbat. So some of the questions you might ask and talk with your various teachers, you know, why not discuss or read Zohar Braka, and you know, and why they save that to have it, you know, as a connection to an ending and a beginning. So I was going. It covers, and what's interesting is that since it's not read on the Shabbat, last Shabbat, which happened to be Shemini Atzeret, which was the day after Sukkot. Many of us went through the period of Sukkot, which all Israelites born would dwell in booths, a temporary house, fragile. There's so much stuff to talk about on that area there, but I'll say that for another time, since we past that period in time. So let's save that discussion for another time. But one thing I would leave is why we remember departing Egypt at the end of the year instead of when the very beginning of the year when we left out of Egypt. Well, I remember at this time when we observed the Pesach every year. So those are some things to consider. And then why we're told only to eat a certain way on Pesach, but yet we're told, as I mentioned before, that we're able to eat pretty much what we want, but we must dwell in a booth for 7 days. So, and then Shemini Atzeret is another day that's attached as a concluding day. It is separate, but yet concludes or stamped as an 8th day, which 8th is usually like a new beginning. Because you have 7 days of the week, perfection, and then you start a new beginning. So similar with this here. And it's like a stamp. And there's always, different viewpoints on what ascetic means, as I spoke on in the past. So the Haftorah that most people read on that day was the Book of Kings, 1 Kings, 8th chapter, 54th verse to the very end. And that's when Solomon begins to bless the people and also send them away, where he extended the Feast of Booths. Instead of having it for 7 days, he had it for 14th day. And then after the Shemini Atzeret, he sends them on their way on that particular time at the dedication. So mind you that overextended Yom Kippur in the book. And then so he not only prayed for the people, but he also blessed the people at that particular time. So in the land of Israel, they don't do an extra day, as many of us know, except for on Yom Teruah, the first day of the month of Bethany, which is a Rosh Chodesh. But when it comes to the rest of the days, Shemini Atzeret, that's its booth for 7 days, and Shemini Atzeret is 8th day. And they do a thing which is called Simchat Torah, which is rejoicing in the Torah. They do that at that particular time on that 8th day, where outside the land of Israel have been accustomed for many years that people do an extra day on Simchat Torah, which they keep it separate from Shemini Atzeret. All right, so the Haftorah on Simchat Torah, or the day that was done following afterwards, basically let me start back. Most people read in the book of Deuteronomy, that Shabbat on Shemini Atzeret, 14th chapter, 22nd verse, and they went to the 16th chapter of Deuteronomy to the 17th verse. And then was the next day, those that did observe an extra day, they went and read, which was not on the Shabbat, which was that Yom Rishon or Sunday. They read the book of Deuteronomy, which is, where we get V'zot HaBraka, all the way to the end, concluding that on Simchat Torah. And then they have a few excerpts on coming with Bereshit. So they conclude with Bereshit as far as the 7th Aliyah, since it was on a Sunday. We know also that the Haftorah that they did on that particular time was actually Joshua, the 1st chapter, all the way to the 18th verse, which concludes that 1st chapter. So it's like a one ending, another beginning. So that was a fitting mode that they chose as the Haftorah for after Shemini Atzeret. All right, so now when we look at V'zot HaBraka, before I get into it, I'm gonna give you let's just talk about the blessings for the tribe. Moses, and talk about Moses blessing the tribes and his death. So first of all, I'd like to just go from the beginning of V'zot HaBraka, when it says, just for the Ivrit in the Hebrew, it says, V'zot HaBraka asher barei Barak Moshe ish Halehim. Epene Yisrael Lifnei Moto. All right, so here it is that, as we translate, and this is the blessing that Moses blessed. And it is, and it says, the man of God, the children of Israel, before his death. So, and one of the questions, is normally asked is, if this is the blessing, why he talk about all the tribes, blessing the tribes in his blessing? So this is one of the things that you got to ask. All right. And not only while, he let him know about how the Creator looked out for him and gave him a fiery Torah. So one of the areas that we look at in this particular portion is that it does not only stop with the blessings, it goes on even further, and let you know that. Let me just read what it has here in the book. It says, and this is the blessing wherewith Moses, the man of God, blessed the children of Israel before his death. And he said, the Lord came from Sinai and rose from Seir unto them, and he shined forth from Mount Paran, and again came from the Merarites holy, at his right hand, a fiery law unto them. And it goes on and said, yea, he loved the people. All these holy ones, they are thy hand, they are in thy hands. And they sit down at thy feet, receiving of thy word. Moses commanded us a law. Now, this fourth verse I like to focus on in this here, the fourth verse. Moses commanded us a law, an inheritance of the congregation of Yaakov. And there was a king in Yeshurun, when the heads of the people were gathered, all the tribes of Israel together. All right, now, like I said, when he said result habraka, that's in the singular. So that is the blessing. But then he started to bless each individual tribe. So you would think it should be blessings. These are the blessings that he's going to bring about. But he focused on the real one blessing. And then when he focused on that one real blessing, when we look at it, we got to say, okay, it referred to the heritage. It's the word that's used in Hebrew here. It's marasha. Marasha is a heritage, where Yerusha is an inheritance. And you will say, okay, what is the differences? If you got a heritage, you should have an inheritance? Not necessarily so. If you got an inheritance, you necessarily got a heritage? That might not be necessarily so either. So why a lot of times we confuse and interchange the words, and sometimes we do often, even in the book, or some of the teachers or sages, interchange the word. So I just want to give you just a brief explanation. You can further discuss it with your various leaders and teachers on this particular area. But the significant difference is when you have an inheritance. One, somebody worked and earned it, and they passed it on to you. And they pass it on to you, and it's completely yours. But when Moses used the word marasha, not Yerusha, which is the inheritance that could be passed down to whoever you want to pass it down to. And who receives it, owns it, and do what they like with it. But a marasha, a heritage, is something that you are born into, and it's placed in your care, but you never ever owns it. And that's the difference. So a heritage is not only is placed in your care, not only you never really own it, but you can never ever change it and do what you want to do with it. And a heritage is something that got to stay intact from the door to the door, from generation to generation. That is a marasha, something that must stay intact from generation to generation. You never own it. All you do is caretake them. Your job is to make sure it's passed on intact. So this is what belongs to the whole house of Yaakov, Marasha. So that's what you would say if you say the blessing. Say, and what is that? Torah, a fiery law. Because as a whole, that was when people as a whole was gathered there, but you had mixed multitude and you had other people that was part of a covenant. But as a whole, who had the heritage, that's one people as a whole. And then also they say we can't make Torah what we want it to be. We got to live and act Torah the way it was formed by God for us to be, in that vein. So now it talks about a few tribes here. I'm not going to focus on the blessings not that long. It started off with Reuben, then it goes on with Judah. And one of the things I just read about Yehudah himself, which is Judah, in the 7th verse says, and this for Judah, he said, hear, Lord, the voice of Yehudah, Judah, and bring him unto his people. His hand shall contend for him, and thou shalt be a help against his adversary. So why hear the voice of Yehudah? Prayer is significant. Crying out is significant. That means right then, sometimes you might say words like I spoke on before, but when you say words, it might not be really all that you trying to express yourself. It may not cover your greatest expression. So on behalf of Yehudah, Moses said, and Yehudah supposed to go up first, put himself in jeopardy, and supposed to be a lawgiver. Say, hear the voice. In other words, if you're going to pray for the people, then pray for the people. And you say, well, you got the Kohen that's supposed to pray for the people. Shouldn't you hear the Kohen voice when he speaks about Levi, which is right behind Yehudah? That's the man that we read about that goes in the Holy of Holies and pray on the behalf of the people. But it said the tribe as a whole. So those are some of the things that you could discuss later on within this portion. I'm not going to spend long in that because there's other things I want to cover. So when he blesses them, then it goes on into the 34th chapter. And this is what I like to bring out in the 34th chapter. We're going to start to talk about Moses' death in the 34th chapter, which is basically only 12 verses. And it says, and Moses went up from the plains of Moab unto Mount Nebo to the top of Pisgah, that is over against Jericho. And the Lord showed him all the land, even Gilead as far as Dan, and all the Naphtali, and the land of Ephraim, and Manasseh, and all the land of Judah, as far as the Hinder Sea, and the south, and the plain, even the valley of Jericho, the city of palm trees, as far as Zor. And the Lord said unto him, this is the land which I swore unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob, saying, I will give it unto thy seed. I will cause thee to see it with thy eyes, but thou shalt not go over thither. Now, when we look at this here, then the Creator already told Moses that you're not going over. You're going to die in this land. And he said, going to let him see it. And when we look at the boundaries of Israel, these are actually rivers, lakes, mountains, valleys, so plains, desert areas. So, we got definitive boundaries that the land actually shows a difference in the geography of the land that shows that this is how this line go. It's not where you draw a straight line here and a straight line that way, where you have a straight rectangle, a straight box, or you have a triangle. You actually have scenery, land, mountains, rivers, seas, and desert area and forestry. You have all that depicting a boundary line for the land of Israel that God promised to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob, to give to their seed. So that's one thing to bear in mind, as as we proceed in this here particular area and discuss about property. Now we know, and you're going to find a lot of people say, well, the Creator, since when the Torah supposed to be a real estate broker, or since when the Torah itself supposed to be defining land deeds. That's for something that is always on the table, but I'm not going to focus on it now. But I bring those things out in reference to the situations that are going on today, as that happened actually on Shemini Atzeret in the land of Eretz Yisrael. So now, when we look here, and it said that he's told to die. Now, at this time, you could see it. And what do Moses see? Looking at the land, not only when God show you the land and you really see it, you see that actual potential of what an individual living in those areas can possibly achieve. You see the great heights of it. So Moses is not just looking at geographical areas. He see not only that, he could see what an individual living in the areas, what's the potential that can be made of an individual living in those lands in the eyesight of the Creator. All right. So now it goes on to say, so Moses, the 5th verse. So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died in the land of Moab according to the word of the Lord. So according to the word, that means that he followed that final command. His final command was die. So that's what Moses did. He followed that last command. The dude, I need to die. I ain't like I'm sick, but we're going to find that out as well. It said, and he was buried in the valley of the land of, he was buried in the valley in the land of Moab over against Beth Peor. And no man knoweth of his sepulchre until this day. And Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eyes were not dim, nor his natural force abated. And the children of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days. So the days of weeping in the morning for Moses were ended. And Joshua the son of Nun was full of the spirit of wisdom, for Moses had laid his hands upon him. And the children of Israel hearkened unto him, and did as the Lord commanded Moses. And there have not arisen a prophet since in Israel, like unto Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face, in all the signs and the wonders which the Lord sent him to do in the land of Egypt, to Pharaoh, and to all his servants, and to all his land, and in all the mighty hand. Right? So in all the mighty hand, and in all the great terror which Moses wrought in the sight of all Israel. So this is a good eulogy for Moses at the end. Questions: who wrote this part? And Moses, we read that he died. There's a lot of discussions going on about this here, that he died, and at the command of God, he went up on a mountain by himself. And then another question you got to say, he died on a mountain, then how he wound up being buried in the valley, when the mountain is up and the valley is low. These are questions to think about. And then, who finished this here book? Now we know he was a great man. No other prophet arisen in Israel like Moses. He was the first one. in Israel. Now we know Abraham was called a prophet by the Hittites. He was called a prophet, but and then by the, well, anyway, it's mentioned that he's a prophet. Matter of fact, let me just straighten this out a little bit. He's a prophet. He had to pray for the Philistine king Abimelech. So he definitely was a prophet. But in Israel, a prophet like in Moses that actually talked with God face to face, and you could say, okay, other people heard God's voice, but was they actually that close up, face to face, personal with the Creator? And this is something that's being written there. And then a man writing this that's not there. Or is it Moses predicting how he's going to leave here ahead of time? These are some of the questions to ask. And then when another thing to further discuss as we go further, into this closing section of the Chumash, is that if what makes them so great is that all the signs and wonders, other prophets did signs and wonders. They did some great signs. But with Moses, his ability was seen in the sight out the country, out the land of Israel and Egypt, and his ability was seen in the wilderness by everybody. So some prophets did things where, like I said, about Elijah called down fire from heaven. How many people was there? All Israel wasn't there. We know automatically at that particular time that Elijah called down fire from heaven, that the kingdom had already split for some time. So when he called down fire from heaven, then a lot of stuff was already, only the people that was there would see that. When you take it up in a whirlwind and fiery chariot, only certain people seen that. So when it comes down to other great prophets, Joshua, he was able to exhibit some of those skills in the sight of the people, but not as many as Moses did. So though Joshua had ability where it showed that God was with him in the sight of other people, one, he was told to consult with the priests, through the Urim and Thummim. Moses was never told to consult with anybody but the Creator. So that lets you know the level that Moses was on. All right. Now, some people will say Joshua finished the book, because when we get, and with those that read the part that goes along with that, is that when you read the book of Joshua, it was told Joshua, my servant Moses is dead. Question: if Joshua told that Moses is dead, that means that no one seen him die, because it's mentioned in the book of Joshua that God told him Moses was dead. Moses told him he was going to die. Did they believe him, or did they not believe him? Could you imagine a man such as Moses that did such wonderful, great things, stupendous acts of science and power, miracles, that he's dead now? We thought we know what happened to him before, 40 years ago when he built the calf, when the people built the calf, and Israel allowed that to be undone there. So these are things to discuss. So as we finish this particular part, we say, Kazak, B'nai Kazak, be strong, and let's make one another strong. And I'm going to go along with the psalm that would be appropriate for Bazak Braka. And then I'm going to share some little insight. That'd be Psalms 12 and a Psalm of David. And Psalm 12 is only a few verses, I think 9 verses to be exact. So it's only a few verses. So we'll be touching on Psalm 12 out the portion. So let me see if So now Psalms 12 is actually a psalm. When, like I said, most of the early psalms is written by David himself, but this is written for the leader, and it's supposed to be played on an instrument called a sheminit, which is basically, you get the word hasheminit from the word shimone, which is 8. So it's supposed to be an 8-string instrument. So they had instrumental playing, and he said this is what the conductor, the leader, whoever can perform at the time, and leave it anonymous who is the leader. That means that anybody of all times could do this here. All right. So in Psalms 12, and that'd be the first verse, and I'll start right here. It says, for the leader on the sheminit, a psalm of David. Help, Lord, for the godly man ceases, for the faithful fail from among the children of men. Now, if the godly man ceases and the faithful fail from among the children of men, then what do that say about himself? And who is he talking about? And why he's bringing this up at this particular time? And who it's for? And what it's meant for at this time? Help, Lord, for the godly man ceases, for the faithful men fail among the children of men. They speak falsehood, everyone with his neighbor. With flattering lips and with a double heart do they speak. Said, we can't trust anyone. But yet, you got to reach a point in time where you got to take a man by his word. And often, that's all a man can give. Because other than that, it's a business deal. And even business deal, when they pay and sign, sometimes people still break a contract, a covenant. We are people known to break a covenant. God, when we have covenant with the Creator, we don't keep our covenant often with the Creator. But yet we demand the Creator to fulfill his side of the covenant. So this is what David is bringing out now. He said that, and most people, when they try to cut a deal, when you're over, they give you, they flatter you, accomplishment. All right, and then you're gonna have a lot of people that flatter you. And usually, when a person uses flattery, it's most or deceit, it's because you are more powerful, too powerful for them to come straight up about what is in their heart. They don't feel strong enough to go against you. So therefore, they try to get you off balance and out of position. So it goes down to set in the fourth, God's judgment on the wicked. May the Lord cut off all flattering lips, the tongue that speaketh proud things. So this is what he looking for. Now, flattering and complimenting is two different things. When you flatter somebody, you have an interior motive for yourself. When you compliment someone, you are recognized that they achieved something that's good for them. That's a compliment. They achieved something, made a great step ahead that's benefiting them. And you appreciate that they was able to move ahead and benefit and gain a benefit. But flattering is, I don't want you to benefit, but I need you to think I'm for you. So it's a little different here. And it says, who has said, our tongue will we make mighty. Our lips are with us. Who is Lord over us? Some people had a gift of gab. They, that's why, like I said again, the accomplishment, the con artists have the gift of gab. Sometimes people make you believe what you think you want, say what you think you want. That's what advertisement is all about. Advertisement is not all the time that you need the product that's out there, but to make you think you need the product that's out there. Now, mind you, some products are necessary, but a person that works in the advertisement business is not necessarily trying to say you need the product. You know, I mean, he's saying that I want you to think you always need that particular product, and that's how they push and make sales. All right, now a merchant, he's out there. He say, "Well, I know I got these apples. I know I got these oranges. So I got sweet oranges, sweet apples for sale, sweet grapes for sale. All right, they're really good. You know, they tasty. But I don't say you need them, but would you like them? That's the difference from a person selling a particular merchandise, as opposed to a person buying stuff. Often we buy stuff we really don't need. We buy stuff we really don't want. We buy stuff and we say, well, why did I buy that in the first place? Well, you was there spending your money. It took time to take the money out. All right, so let's go a little bit further. So this is a guy that boasts and said that their lips are so well that nobody could beat me at this game. I'm the best at this game. We had one guy, we know Jacob used a lot of deception, our forefather, but his uncle was far better in the game than he was. If he said, my uncle, changed my wages 10 times. He said, well, wow, how come we don't read about all those different times in the book? He said, Laban changed his wages 10 times. And he didn't get no sleep. So that means that Laban, which is Jacob's uncle, I mean, most people say Laban, was much more oily tongue, much more sharper, much more of a confidence con man than his nephew Jacob ever could be at that time. And Jacob had to admit, if it was not for God, so when our father Jacob said, if it was not for God, I would have left here empty-handed. That means that I don't even have the skills to mess with you. Ain't that something? A man that was able to use deception, work on things, come up and get out and get away, saying, I can't mess with you. You're better than me. You're a master. Only God kept you from dogging me out. That is something to think about, our forefather, and also think about what the psalm is about. And we came through a lot of atrocities and a lot of deals and a lot of conflicts come from breach of promise, bad words. We're into a situation like that now, which I'm going to speak on a little later after I finish the psalm. It said, for the oppression of the poor, for the sign of the needy, now will I arise, said the Lord. I will set him in his safety at whom they puff. The words of the Lord are pure words, as silver tried and incredible on the earth, refined 7 times. So the creator words is going to be pure. And when you're dealing with the creator, dealing with and speaking in a righteous manner, and really being really righteous and upfront, and looking not to take an advantage, but actually looking to be just in all your dealings, you won't be deceived. If you're looking to be really just in all your dealings, most of the time, you won't be deceived. But when, and I know we could bring up certain points in scriptures, but when you analyze it to the very, very fine lowest denominator, so to speak, the only way a person is being deceived more often is when they think they're getting more than what they really should be paying for. That's usually it. Now, it's different if a guy says, I'm just going to give you this. It's worth this. You ain't got that. I'm going to give you this. That's different. But a lot of times when we try to think we're getting more than what we rightfully deserve, then in a deal, that's when it become easy to be deceived. So it goes and further as we finish up. It says in a ninth verse, the last verse, that before I finish up, we go to 8. Thou will keep them, O Lord. Thou will preserve us from this generation forever. The wicked walk on every side when vileness is exalted among the sons of men. That means right then and there. That's the only way wicked is prosperous, is when you have so many people of the sons of men that's not really dealing with base things. Everybody trying to get what they don't deserve. So now, in lieu of this situation going, and just my view, because we have finished the Chumash, and we will be starting Bereshit in the beginning. That shows that as an end, it's never ending. You just go back to a beginning. So we have a man that Moses make a transition, but we have Joshua who's taken over Moses' position, and we start off as a new beginning when we went through Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and then now we done passed Shemini Azeret, so now we're into a beginning, starting our spiritual journey again with less baggage. So that's where we're at this point in time and juncture. Now, I just want to bring out some viewpoints because I was asked a lot of questions concerning the Israeli and the Hamas situation, which when we say Hamas, and it's interesting that the word Hamas actually means terror in Hebrew. That's the word Hamas, spelled just like it is, just like it sounds. They use an acronym a bad acronym for another organization, but that's another story. But Hamas itself actually in Hebrew means terror. Now, war is never a such thing as a good war, a decent war, a war without casualty. And this is only from Crown Prince viewpoint I'm speaking. I'm not speaking on behalf of D.C.B. I'm saying some of the questions that was presented to me, and these are some of the things that I was sharing in reference to the Hamas situation, and the issue supposed to be about Palestinian and Israelis, and about who belongs where and what. I'm not going to get into who belongs where and what. That I'm not going to address. The book make it very clear who the land belonged to. Identifying the people is another issue, who it is. But when we say, when a people is attacked on a holy observance, and really, and in Israel, like I said, on the Shabbat, it's not only was a Shabbat, but you actually has, Shemini Azeret, where during Sukkot time, you offer up for every nation a bullock. So when you calculate how many offerings that's done from the book of Numbers on Sukkot during that time, every day, it adds up to 70. And then if you go to the book of Genesis, you find that it was actually 70 nations. So you offering up a bullock for each nation. And we know in the latter days that every nation on the planet, those 70 nations, must come up to the house of the Lord and worship annually during the time of Sukkot, or else there are going to be consequences. We read that. And those that might want to, at the end of my dissertation about my viewpoints, you want to go into maybe Jeremiah 31st chapter, maybe the 9th verse to the 12th verse, inclusive, which is like four verses. It might shed some light on some issues there. But one of the things is that when we're talking Torah is meant to show how we must behave with all mankind. So when a person's rejoicing and studying and say, all right, nothing bring a people together greater than a funeral. Can you imagine that? You figure weddings you celebrate. People travel miles, cross continents to go to a funeral. But everybody don't travel that far to go to a wedding. That's something to consider. So it is that when you have the teachings that's coming down through the prophet Moses from the Creator about how to deal with your fellow man, how to love with a stranger, it's war. When war ensues, and a person say, "I'm praying," and I'm praying not so much to conquer you, but I'm praying in order to try to live a more godly life. Then when you have a people that's tagged, now I'm saying, now I know some people that, you got people that's not really observant in the sense of sincere about their prayers, about their change, about the reformations and resolutions that they make. But we just discussed that in the Psalm. But for the most part, if they're in a place where they're trying to, in that space, and I'm talking about place and time, not place, parts, location, and time, and you attack them in that, at that particular point in time, then it makes you got to consider, is that a godly thing? When you don't, you have, you're going to have civilian casualties on both sides, civilian casualties. Everybody is not a fighter. Everybody is not trying to fight. When you talk about who rights to a land and reparations, some people is getting reparations, and myself being a man of color, black man from America, we never even got any reparations as of yet, and other people gotten reparations. So, but that's not about us right now. And if I was going to say, well, I want to support anything, then I know, and I'm not talking about directing myself against Muslims or anything like that, because I'm going to be an Israelite, and follow, Torah concepts. Is that we know everybody here part of the slave trade, but only a few people that we know of a certain ethnic background that supported Martin Luther King and even gave him advice how to go about his rallies and marches. These are just a matter of records. A person, I know in the early days, if my historical knowledge is correct, that Islamically, the Prophet Muhammad prayed towards Jerusalem. Then after a situation where, the Jews in Medina wasn't really accepting them and other things supposed to transpire, they started praying towards Mecca. But yet you had the mosque in, I think Omar is in Jerusalem itself, and it's under Islamic control. And that's, that, and historically, it was an Israeli citizen, had to be of Jewish background, Orthodoxy, that tried to lay bombs to try to sabotage it. And it was Israeli Jewish people and the gatekeepers that actually stopped it and avoided it. Where he was thinking that I'm going to try to blow this up. You have Arab quarters, Christian quarters by the hotel. We read in the scriptures, he that destroyed the land, must build it up. We know that, I'm not even talking about the Balfour Agreement. I'm not even talking about the Ottoman Turks. I'm not even talking about the Zionist movement thing and stuff. But one thing I say, people that built up an area, built up a place. Not only it was a religious site for three major people, all right, say Judaism, as a whole, holy spot for Muslims as a whole, a holy spot for Christians as a whole, and yet as a holy spot there, it's fought over, just for control of a particular area, and you're going to have a lot of innocent people on both sides destroyed. So those that built the land not only made it attractive, made swamps and deserts, certain areas as a paradise, but also made it a tourist attraction as well as and so it's not just talking about revisiting area Israel, it's returning, in that sense. One of the first laws that Parliament made was law of return. Now, I know that sometimes they went one-sided with the law of return. But if I had to support something, I have to support where the females are not denigrated, where they're not hindered in certain status quo, so to speak. I have to support those that pray to the same deity that I pray to, observe the same days I observe, eat the same way I eat. I must support those that say, okay, if you're not observing like me, I can still tolerate you, as opposed to those that, if you don't observe like me, I got to eliminate you. It never was a thing of, I'm just using to quote a word, and this is just my view, Judaism or death. And we never had that kind of slogan going on like that. And the thing is that, why would a person die for their belief instead of live for their belief? I come from a camp of BINAH Zakim. We say we're not going to die for our belief. We're going to live for our belief. And to this very day, I believe in that. Living for my belief and exercising and trying to look for the good in every individual. So we know, according to the last days, there's going to be a lot of fights. And the main area of war that talked about in the scriptures is in Jerusalem. And you say half the city against the other half of the city. So you say, well, which half is okay for one side? What side you stand on? Why half the city fight against the other half of the city? It seems a civil war is never good. And like I said, it's never a good war. It's only good living that we could deal with. And that's what everybody benefit from. Good understanding, what everybody benefit from. Looking for the good in the next individual, what everybody benefit from. So those are my views on it. I know we could cite a whole lot of particulars on either side, and that's to be expected because everybody could come up with a reason why they choose a certain position. I'm finishing up my talk for this year. Dealt with the Sidros, I dealt with the Haftorahs, I dealt with the Psalms that goes along with the Sidros. So now, I just since this happened at the end of the year, this would normally wouldn't have been my talk, but we got to look for the best and the good in every human being, and that's one of the things that we must shoot for in the future. We pray for the salvation of the world. One of the things I will end with is that when Jeremiah said under Nebuchadnezzar that when he's going to destroy everything, and he's a prophet that had to see the temple destroyed, and we go into Babylon, he said, pray for the city. And you say, well, this man must be crazy. I'm going to pray for an individual that's taking me off in chains, destroying my land, killed some of my relatives, killed some of my friends. I'm going to pray for the peace and the government of that city. And that's, and sometimes when the Creator don't exercise immediate judgment on an individual to do wrong, it's because it builds up where they're not planning on repenting, but he had to have no mercy left for them. And so sometimes things go, and we was told, our forefather Abraham was told that the iniquities of the Amorites are not yet fulfilled. So they ain't gonna change. But nevertheless, their time will come, but it ain't gonna be in your time. So I hope that we all could pray. We all must pray for our loved ones there, because we got a group in Demona. We got people that came from over there. So we got families. So it's not even about the color in that sense. It's about, humanity. Who's, because on that line with Martin Luther King and a lot of fights that we had in this country on behalf of so-called blacks in this country, it wasn't always black guys doing the fighting. There's other people that was fighting, on behalf. And so people sometimes will step out their comfort zone because somebody else become uncomfortable, and they would try to ensure that. So I will say, once again, my motto is live for my belief, never die for my belief. And any mistakes been my own. I hope you got something out of what I said. And this is just strictly Crown Prince